Admiral Vexterra of the Galactic Commonwealth stood frozen before the large screen. The small dot on the radar shouldn't have seemed important. Just another ship passing through the outer edge of Sector 7, except for the energy pattern it gave, off. This pattern, according to old Commonwealth records, belonged to a species long thought to be just a story. "Check it again," she ordered Lieutenant Zix, her second antenna twitching nervously. "I already did, Admiral. 3 times. The lieutenant spoke quietly. "The pattern matches the engines that supposedly belong to humans." The room fell silent. Humans were just stories told to children. Primitive beings who had supposedly destroyed their own world before vanishing from the galaxy. Yet here was proof suggesting otherwise. "Impossible," whispered Commander Grell, the Admiral's chief advisor. His scaled skin changed from blue to pale green, a sign of extreme shock among his people. "Humans are myths, like space dragons or thought-eaters." Admiral Vexitara's 4 eyes narrowed as she studied the blinking dot. In 300 years of Commonwealth history, no confirmed human had ever been seen. There were stories, of course. Tales of incredibly adaptable beings who had reached the stars in a fraction of the time it took other species, only to vanish after some great disaster. "Myths don't show up on radar, Commander," she said finally. "Prepare a first contact team, and send word to High Command immediately." As the command center burst into activity, Admiral Vextara felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. Her species valued discovery above all else, but even she had to admit that some discoveries were more troubling than others. If humans were real, and they had returned, what did it mean for the peaceful Commonwealth? "Keep tracking that ship," she ordered. "Do not lose it." Across Commonwealth territory on the farming planet Tellus IV, Frank Miller wiped sweat from his face as he worked in the underground room. For 3 generations, the people from the Earth ship USS Dauntless had hidden among the stars, looking like various Commonwealth aliens thanks to special technology that changed their appearance. Frank and the other survivors had a mission: to make sure humanity wasn't forgotten, waiting for the sign that would bring their scattered kind back together. Today, that sign had come. "Kate," Frank called to his wife who watched the communication system. "Tell Gary and Diane to get the small ship ready. It's time." Kate looked up, her eyes wide. "You're sure? After all this time?" Frank nodded and walked to a metal box that had been in his family for generations. He placed his hand on the scanner and the box opened with a soft hiss. Inside was a simple metal disc, smooth except for the image of Earth etched into its surface. "The signal matches the pattern exactly," he said, his voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside him. "Someone has activated a human ship's engines at full power, making sure every sensor in this part of the galaxy would pick it up. This is what we've been waiting for." Kate touched the small device on her wrist and her alien appearance faded away. Instead of blue skin and 4 arms, she now had the tan skin and dark hair she'd been born with. Frank did the same, his tall, thin alien form changing back to his stocky human body. "I almost forgot what we really look like," Kate said with a small laugh. "It's been months since we turned these off, even in private." Frank smiled, but his mind was already racing ahead. "We need to contact the others. All 27 families in this settlement. If we received the signal, they did too." Across the room, a screen lit up with a message. It was simple text in an old human language that no Commonwealth species could. "The stars remember Aurora Protocol active." Kate's eyes filled with tears. "My grandmother told me about this. Aurora Protocol means it's time for all humans to reveal themselves." "Not quite yet," Frank cautioned. "First we gather. The backup plan has always been to meet at the old mining facility on the moon of Tellus III. As they packed essential items, Frank thought about the stories passed down in his family. How Earth had been attacked without warning by the early Galactic Hegemony, the group that came before the Commonwealth. How thousands of human ships had escaped, scattering across the galaxy. How they'd chosen to hide rather than fight a war they couldn't win, waiting for the right time to emerge from the shadows. "Do you think Earth is truly gone?" Kate asked softly, the question that all hidden humans carried in their hearts. Frank Picked up an old paper book, a family history written by his great-grandfather. I don't know, but someone is flying a human ship openly now. That means something has changed. Outside their hidden home, the alien landscape of Tellus 4 continued its normal day. Purple plants swayed in the breeze under two small suns. The local Commonwealth citizens went about their lives, unaware that the Zox family who had farmed Section 12 for the past 30 years were not what they appeared to be. In the small town nearby, other disguised humans were also receiving the signal. The baker, the school teacher, the doctor, all secretly human, all now preparing to reveal a truth that would shock the galaxy. Gary and Diane arrived an hour later in a farm vehicle. Like Frank and Kate, they had switched off their disguises, showing their real human forms for the first time in public in decades. "The shuttle is ready," Gary said, his voice low despite there being no one else around. "We've stored enough fuel to reach Tellus 3 without needing to stop." Diane looked nervous. What if it's a trap? What if someone discovered one of our hidden ships and is using it to draw us out? Frank shook his head. The signal contains verification codes that only a human would know. And it's not just the engine signature. There's a message embedded in the radiation pattern. It says, "The daughter of Earth still sails." The old poem, Kate whispered, from before the attack. They loaded their essential belongings onto the farm vehicle and took one last look at the place that had been their home. The small house was built into the side of a hill, hidden from aerial view by the dense purple foliage. Inside, they left, behind most of their possessions, items collected over a life pretending to be something they were not. As they drove away, Frank thought about what was coming. After 300 years of hiding, humanity was about to announce its survival to a galaxy that thought it was just a legend. The Commonwealth would be shocked. Some would be frightened. Others would be curious. But no matter what happened next, the truth was finally going to be told. Humans weren't legends. They were very real, and they had been watching and waiting all along. The small dot on Admiral Vextara's radar screen continued its steady course, unaware that it had just changed. The galaxy forever. Captain Nargoth of the Commonwealth ship Distant Horizon felt his heart chambers beating faster as they approached the unknown vessel. In 20 years of space travel, he had never faced a situation this strange. The Commonwealth had rules for meeting new species, but none for encountering creatures that were supposed to be myths. "Keep our shields at full power," he told his crew. His long fingers tapped nervously on the arm of his command chair. "And ready all sensors. I want to know everything about that ship." The mystery vessel was small by Commonwealth standards, about the size of a mid-range transport. Its hull was dark gray with strange markings that the ship's computer could not translate. Most unusual was its design, blocky and practical, without the flowing curves that most spacefaring species preferred. "Hailing frequencies open, Captain," reported Officer Plitt from the communication station. Nargoth cleared his throat sacs. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Nargoth of the Galactic Commonwealth ship Distant Horizon. Your ship design and energy signature are unfamiliar to us. Please identify yourself." The main screen flickered to life, showing a being that made every crew member on the bridge freeze in shock. It had no scales, no extra limbs, no antennae, just flat features and strange, soft-looking skin. "This is Captain Heather Moore of the Earth vessel Starseeker. We come in peace." A human. An actual human, speaking to them in perfect Commonwealth, standard language. Nargoth felt dizzy. How is this possible?" He finally managed to ask. "According to our records, your species is extinct?" Captain Moore finished with a small smile. "Those records are incorrect, Captain Nargoth. Humanity survived. We've been watching from the shadows for a very long time." Aboard the Starseeker, Heather ended the transmission and turned to her executive officer, Joe Kelly. "They're shocked, but not hostile," she observed. "That's a good start." Joe nodded as he studied the Commonwealth vessel on their screens. 300 years we've been hiding, building our strength, waiting for this moment, and now we're making ourselves known." "Phase 1 complete," said Science Officer Ellie Daniels, who was monitoring communications across Commonwealth space. Our signal has been detected by at least 37 listening posts, and we're getting encrypted messages from human enclaves on 12 different worlds. Heather looked at the faces of her crew, just 30 humans on this small ship, but they represented something much larger. Across the galaxy, there were over 2 million humans living in disguise, scattered across hundreds of worlds. The Commonwealth is not our enemy, she reminded them. They're not the hegemony that attacked Earth. They're better, more peaceful. That's why we chose now to reveal ourselves. Some will still fear us, Joe pointed out. The legends about humans haven't been kind. Heather nodded. That's why we need to show them the truth. Not just about us, but about what really happened to Earth. Meanwhile, on the agricultural planet Tellus 4, Frank and Kate Miller's shuttle rose through the purple clouds of the atmosphere. They weren't alone. 5 other small ships had joined them, each carrying disguised humans who had been living on Tellus 4 for decades. Approaching Tellus III, Gary reported from the pilot's seat. The old mining facility is on the far side of the moon. We'll be hidden from Commonwealth sensors there. Frank looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there was the Starseeker, the human ship that had deliberately revealed itself. And somewhere else, if the legends were true, was Earth itself. Do you think it's really happening? Kate asked, her voice hushed. After all these generations of hiding? Frank squeezed her hand. The Aurora Protocol would only be activated if we were ready. If we had enough ships, enough people, enough technology, to ensure our survival even if the Commonwealth reacted badly. As their shuttle approached the dark side of Tellus III's moon, they saw other ships already gathered there. Dozens of them, from all over the Tellus system. Some were small personal vessels, others were mid-sized transports. All were piloted by humans who had been living in disguise. The old mining facility was built into the side of a crater. Its entrance was large enough for small ships to enter directly, hiding them from any passing vessels. Inside, the huge chamber was filled with activity as humans greeted each other, many seeing others of their kind without disguises for the first time in years. Frank, Kate. A woman with gray hair waved to them as they exited their shuttle. It's me, Olivia, from the North Continent. Kate blinked in surprise. The botanist? I had no idea you were human. Olivia laughed. That was the point, wasn't it? I've been working with alien plants for 50 years. My neighbors think I'm a Centauran with an unusual love of dirt. All around them, similar reunions were happening as humans recognized friends and neighbors who had been living behind alien facades. In the center of the chamber, a man stood on a raised platform, calling for attention. Brothers and sisters, he said, his voice carrying across the chamber. My name is Will Foster. I'm the coordinator for this sector's Aurora Protocol. Today marks the beginning of humanity's return from the shadows. The crowd grew quiet, listening intently. 300 years ago, the galactic hegemony attacked Earth without warning or mercy. They feared our potential, our rapid advancement, but they underestimated our determination to survive. Will's voice grew stronger. Thousands of ships escaped Earth, carrying our ancestors to the stars. Rather than fight a war we couldn't win, they chose to hide, to watch, to wait for the right time to return. Frank felt a lump in his throat. His great-grandfather had been on one of those escaping ships, just a child when Earth was attacked. That time is now, Will continued. The hegemony is long gone, replaced by the more peaceful Commonwealth. And we are no longer scattered refugees. We have ships, technology, and a network that spans the galaxy. Most importantly, we have truth on our side. He activated a holographic display, showing a small ship similar to the one Frank had seen on the news, the human vessel that had appeared on Commonwealth radar. Captain Moore and the Starseeker have made the first move. Others will follow. Within days, human ships will appear across Commonwealth space, not to attack, but to announce our presence. And here's the most important part. We have contacted Earth. A murmur of shock ran through the crowd. Yes, Earth survived, damaged but not destroyed. Our homeworld has been rebuilding, healing, waiting just as we have. And now, after 3 centuries, We are ready to reunite and take our rightful place among the stars." The crowd erupted in cheers and tears. Frank held Kate tightly, overcome with emotion. Earth still existed. The homeworld they knew only from stories and pictures had survived the attack. "What happens next?" someone called out. Will's expression grew serious. "Next comes the harder part. We must reveal ourselves to the Commonwealth, explain our history, and seek recognition as a species with rights and territory. Some will welcome us. Others will fear us based on old legends. But all will have to accept that humans are not myths. We are real, we are many, and we have returned." As the meeting continued, Frank found himself thinking about the future. For generations, humans had lived lies, hiding their true nature. Their children had grown up learning to be careful, to never reveal their identity. What would it be like to live openly as human? In space, Captain Nargoth was thinking similar thoughts as he continued his conversation with the human captain. Everything he had thought he knew about the galaxy was changing. Humans weren't legends, they were real. And if this Captain Moore was telling the truth, they were everywhere. The age of myths was ending. A new age of truth was beginning. The Commonwealth capital world of Centaurus was in chaos. News of the human ship had spread quickly, and now emergency meetings were taking place in every government building. In the Grand Hall of History, Dr. Shintara, the Commonwealth's top expert on ancient species, addressed the hastily gathered council. "For centuries, we've classified humans as either extinct or mythological," Dr. Shintara said, her voice echoing in the large chamber. "The few artifacts we've found suggested they were an aggressive but inventive species who reached space travel quickly, then vanished after some disaster." "Are they dangerous?" asked Counselor Vrek, a tall being with gray skin and 6 fingers on each hand. Dr. Shintara paused. "The stories say they were capable of both great kindness and terrible violence. They were contradictions, builders and destroyers." Admiral Vexitara, who had been the first to detect the human ship, stepped forward. "We've now confirmed human ships appearing in 12 different sectors. They're not attacking. They're simply revealing themselves." Counselor Trill, who represented the peaceful plant-based species of the Outer Rim, rustled her leaf-like appendages nervously. "How is this possible? How could an entire species hide from us for so long?" "That's what we need to find out," said the High Chancellor, the eldest member of the council. "Admiral, prepare your best diplomatic vessel. We need to speak with these humans directly." Meanwhile, on the planet Nevius Prime, a construction worker named Sam Peters was about to change many lives. For 15 years, he had worked alongside the insect-like Nevians, building their massive hive towers. They knew him as Ziktik, a quiet worker from a minor spacefaring race. They had never suspected he was human. Until today. Sam stood in the center of the construction site and reached for the small device on his wrist. With a deep breath, he deactivated his disguise. His blue exoskeleton and multiple limbs faded away, revealing his true human form: brown skin, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a face without mandibles or compound eyes. The Nevians around him froze in shock, their antennae quivering. "My real name is Sam Peters," he said calmly, though his heart was racing. "I am a human. We are not extinct, and we are not just stories. We have been living among you for centuries." Similar scenes were happening across the galaxy. On space stations and colony worlds, in universities and trading posts, humans were revealing themselves. Some reactions were of fear, others of disbelief, many of simple shock. On the Commonwealth diplomatic vessel Unity, Ambassador Lorvan prepared to meet with Captain Heather Moore of the Starseeker. The meeting would be broadcast across Commonwealth. Space, the first official contact with a species long thought to be gone. "Remember," his aide cautioned, "the legends say humans can be unpredictable. Be careful what you say." Ambassador Lorvan nodded, adjusting his ceremonial robes. "I'll keep that in mind, though I suspect many of our legends about humans are exaggerated." When Captain Moore entered the meeting chamber, Ambassador Lorvan was struck by how ordinary she looked. The legends described humans as fearsome warriors or mysterious wizards. Yet Captain Moore appeared to be simply another intelligent being. 2 arms, 2 legs, a face with 2 eyes. Captain Moore, he greeted her, using the traditional Commonwealth welcome gesture. I speak for the entire Commonwealth when I say we are surprised by your existence. Heather smiled. I understand, Ambassador. Finding out that a supposedly extinct species has actually been living among you must be quite a shock. Why reveal yourselves now? And why hide for so long? The questions that everyone wanted answered. We hid because we had to, Heather explained. 300 years ago, the Galactic Hegemony, the group that came before your Commonwealth, attacked our homeworld, Earth. They feared our rapid development and saw us as a future threat. Ambassador Lorvan blinked in surprise. This was not the history he had learned. Our ancestors escaped in thousands of ships, Heather continued. Rather than fight a war we couldn't win, they scattered across the galaxy. They used advanced holographic technology to disguise themselves as members of other species. They watched and waited, passing down our true history from parent to child. And now? The ambassador asked. Now it's time for truth, Heather said firmly. The hegemony is gone. Your Commonwealth values peace and cooperation, and we're ready to take our place as an officially recognized species again. Back at the mining facility on Tellus the Thur's moon, Frank and Kate Miller listened to this conversation on a large screen, along with hundreds of other revealed humans. The speech was being broadcast across Commonwealth space and being watched by millions of disguised humans still hidden among alien populations. She's doing well, Kate whispered to Frank. Clear, honest, but not threatening. Frank nodded. The hard part will be convincing them about Earth. On the screen, Captain Moore was addressing that very topic. Earth was not destroyed, she told the stunned ambassador. It was badly damaged in the attack, but many humans survived in underground shelters. For 3 centuries they've been rebuilding, and recently they've managed to restore enough technology to send signals to our scattered people. You expect us to believe your planet recovered from a planetary bombardment? The ambassador asked, his tone skeptical. We expect you to verify it for yourself, Heather replied. That's why we're inviting a Commonwealth delegation to visit Earth, see our homeworld, learn the truth about what happened. In the Grand Hall of History on Centaurus, the Council watched this exchange with growing amazement. Could this be true? Counselor Trill asked Dr. Shintara. Could their planet have survived? The historian looked troubled. I've spent my career studying fragments of information about humans, but now I must wonder, how much of what we think we know is actually true, and how much was altered or hidden? That question was about to be answered in an unexpected way. In the Commonwealth Central Archives, a junior researcher named Plitt was searching through the oldest records of the hegemony when he discovered something strange. Evidence of tampering. Sections deleted, facts changed, entire events erased from history. Senior archivist? He called out, his voice echoing in the vast chamber of records. I think you need to see this. The real history was buried deep, but pieces were emerging. Earth had not destroyed itself. The early galactic hegemony, fearing humanity's quick rise to space, had launched a surprise attack against Earth. They had expected to wipe out the species entirely. Instead, they had created an enemy that had been watching from the shadows for centuries. On Earth itself, in a rebuilt city now called New Denver, Paul Rogers stood on a hill overlooking a landscape that was finally green again after centuries of healing. 300 years after the attack, the radiation had faded. New plants had been engineered to clean the soil faster. The population had grown to nearly 1 billion again. His communication device buzzed with an incoming message from orbit. Paul, came the voice of his colleague Alice Young. They've accepted the invitation. A Commonwealth delegation is coming to Earth. After 300 years, we're finally going to meet our neighbors officially. Paul looked up at the blue sky, at the clouds floating peacefully above a world that had nearly been destroyed. Let's hope they're better neighbors than the last ones, he said quietly. Across the galaxy, the truth was spreading. Humans were not legends. They were real, and they had been waiting patiently for the day when they could step out of the shadows and into the light. The Commonwealth archives on Centaurus were the oldest and largest collection of historical records in known space. For thousands of years, historians had trusted these records completely. Now that trust was being questioned. Plitt, the junior researcher who had first noticed signs of tampering, stood nervously as the High Council members examined his findings. The entire governing body of the Commonwealth had come to see the evidence for themselves. "Show us again," ordered the High Chancellor, her voice grave. Plitt nodded and activated the ancient data cube. This is the original record of first contact, with Earth dated 300 years ago. You can see these strange patterns in the data structure, signs that someone changed the information. Dr. Shintara, who had joined the investigation, pointed to specific sections. "Look here and here. The original text has been covered with new information. The report says humans destroyed their own world in a civil war, but the hidden data underneath tells a different story. The real history was emerging piece by piece. Earth hadn't self-destructed. The early galactic hegemony had attacked Earth. Without warning, fearing humanity's rapid advancement, they had expected to destroy the species entirely. Instead, thousands of ships had escaped, carrying human survivors who chose to hide rather than fight a war they couldn't win at that time." "Why would the hegemony lie about this?" asked Counselor Trill. "To hide their crime," replied Dr. Shintara simply. "Unprovoked attacks on developing species were forbidden even then. They rewrote history to claim humans destroyed themselves." The High Chancellor's face showed deep concern. "If this is true, then our Commonwealth was built on a foundation of lies. We inherited the hegemony's territories without knowing their sins." Meanwhile, aboard the Commonwealth diplomatic vessel Unity, preparations were underway for the historic journey to Earth. Ambassador Lorvan had assembled a team of diplomats, scientists, and security personnel for the mission. "We leave in 6 hours, he told them. "This will be the most important diplomatic mission in Commonwealth history. We are going to visit a world that we thought was destroyed, to meet a species that we believed was extinct." His aide, a young Centauran named Lila, looked nervous. "Ambassador, what if it's a trap? What if the humans want revenge for what the hegemony did?" "If they wanted revenge, they could have struck long ago," Lorvan pointed out. "They've been living among us for centuries, learning our strengths and weaknesses. Instead of attacking, they're inviting us to their home. That suggests they want peace." The Unity departed with a small escort of ships. Captain Heather Moores, Starseeker, led the way, guiding them along a route that no Commonwealth vessel had traveled in 3 centuries. On Earth, in the rebuilt city of New Denver, preparations were also underway. Paul Rogers supervised the final touches on the landing area where the Commonwealth ships would arrive. After centuries of isolation, Earth was about to welcome visitors from the stars again. "How do you feel about this?" asked Alice Young as they watched workers setting up the Welcome Center. Paul considered the question. "My great-grandmother used to tell me stories about the attack, how the sky burned and the oceans boiled, how people fled into space or underground to survive. She never thought she'd see aliens come in peace." "And you?" Alice pressed. "I think it's time. 300 years is long enough to hide." Paul looked up at the sky, which was clear and blue, nothing like the ash-filled darkness his ancestors had described. "Besides, we're strong enough now to defend ourselves if necessary." Earth had changed greatly in 3 centuries. The damage from the hegemony's attack had been severe, continents scarred by energy weapons, oceans poisoned, atmosphere thick with ash and radiation. But humans were resourceful. Those who survived in deep underground bunkers had developed new technologies to clean the radiation, restore the soil, and rebuild their world. Now, Earth held nearly 1 billion people again. Cities gleamed with advanced technology, fields grew with specially engineered crops, and a fleet of defensive ships orbited the planet, ready to prevent another attack. In space, Frank and Kate Miller had transferred from the mining facility to a transport heading for Earth. Like many humans who had lived in disguise their whole lives, they were finally going to see the homeworld they knew only from stories. "I can hardly believe we're really going to Earth," Kate said, looking out the viewport at the stars streaking by. "My parents told me it was just a dream, that we would never see it." Frank nodded. "For generations, we thought Earth was completely destroyed. Finding out it survived, that our people there rebuilt, it changes everything." Their ship was one of hundreds converging on Earth from across the galaxy. Humans who had been scattered among the stars were coming home. Aboard the Unity, Ambassador Lorvan received a startling report from Centaurus. "The archives have confirmed it," his aide told him privately. "The hegemony did attack Earth without provocation. They did try to erase the evidence, and they did rewrite history to blame humans for their own destruction." Lorvan felt a deep sense of shame. The Commonwealth prided itself on justice and truth, yet it had unknowingly continued a terrible lie. "We must make this right," he said, firmly. "When we reach Earth, my first act will be to offer an official apology on behalf of the Commonwealth." After a journey of several days, the small fleet of ships approached the Sol system. The Commonwealth crew members crowded around viewports, eager to see the legendary homeworld of humans. What they saw surprised them. Earth was not the ruined, dead world they had expected. It was blue and green and beautiful. Oceans sparkled, clouds swirled in the atmosphere. And around the planet, a defensive fleet stood guard. Hundreds of ships that had been built in secret during Earth's long recovery. "By the stars," whispered Ambassador Lorvan as he saw the planet for the first time. "They really did rebuild." On the bridge of the Starseeker, Captain Heather Moore smiled at the Commonwealth ambassador's reaction. "Welcome to Earth, Ambassador, the world that refused to die." As the ships began their approach to the landing area in New Denver, communications came from the surface. Paul Rogers, speaking as Earth's official representative, addressed the visiting fleet. "Commonwealth vessels, on behalf of humanity, I welcome you to Earth. For 300 years we have waited for this day. The day when we could finally stand openly among the stars again. Not as victims, not as refugees, but as equals." In the Unity's diplomatic chamber, Ambassador Lorvan prepared the words he would speak when he set foot on Earth. Words of apology, of regret, but also of hope. The Commonwealth had unknowingly inherited the hegemony's crime against humanity. Now they had a chance to make it right. As the ships began their landing approach, humans across the galaxy watched through shared communications. A new chapter in their history was beginning, one where they no longer needed to hide. 6 months had passed since the day when a human ship had appeared on Commonwealth radar and changed the galaxy forever. On Centaurus, the capital world of the Commonwealth, a historic ceremony was about to begin. The Commonwealth Council chamber, newly expanded, buzzed with activity. Representatives from over 100 species waited for the session to start. Among them, wearing the blue and silver robes of an official delegate, stood a human man named Jack Turner. He would be the first human representative to the Commonwealth in 3 centuries. Admiral Vextara, now serving as the Commonwealth's Special Ambassador to Humanity, approached Jack with a warm greeting. "The council is ready," she told him. "Are you nervous?" Jack smiled. "A little. This is a big step for all of us." All across Commonwealth space, humans had emerged from hiding in the months since the revelation. Billions of Commonwealth citizens had been shocked to discover that their neighbors, co-workers, and even friends were not what they appeared to be. Once the disguises came off, humanity's true numbers were revealed. Over 2 million scattered across 500 worlds. Jack followed Admiral Vextara into the Grand Chamber. The entire council rose to their feet in the traditional sign of respect for a new member species. The High Chancellor, a tall being with silver skin, stepped forward. "Today we correct a great wrong," she announced to the assembly. 300 years ago, the galactic hegemony attacked Earth without cause or warning. They then tried to erase their crime by falsifying history. The Commonwealth unknowingly continued this injustice by accepting the false narrative that humans had destroyed themselves. She turned to face Jack directly. On behalf of the Commonwealth, I formally apologize to humanity for this historical wrong. Today, we welcome humans as full and equal members of our galactic community. Jack stepped forward to accept the apology, and the official documents recognizing Earth and all human colonies as sovereign territories within Commonwealth space. The chamber erupted in applause. On the newly established joint human Commonwealth research station called Convergence, which orbited Earth, Heather Moore watched the ceremony on a large screen. Beside her stood her communications officer, Steve, Walsh, and several Commonwealth scientists. "I still can't believe we're here," Steve said quietly. "Sometimes I expect to wake up and find this was all a dream." "Not a dream," replied Heather. "Just the end of a very long waiting period." The station Convergence represented something new in the galaxy, a place where human and alien scientists work together openly, combining their knowledge and perspectives. Already, this cooperation had yielded exciting developments in medicine, energy production, and space travel. On Earth, in one of the vast parks of New Denver, Frank and Kate Miller walked with their children. After a lifetime of hiding on alien worlds, they had decided to settle on the human homeworld. Around them, other families enjoyed the sunshine, some human, others visiting aliens from Commonwealth worlds. "It's strange not having to hide anymore," Kate said, watching their children play with a group of young Centaurans. "I still find myself reaching for my disguise device sometimes out of habit." Frank nodded. 300 years of hiding doesn't disappear overnight, but our children won't have to live that way. They'll grow up knowing who they are and being proud of it. The park was built on land that had once been scorched by the hegemony's weapons. Now it bloomed with flowers and trees, some native to Earth, others brought from distant worlds. It was a living symbol of Earth's recovery. In the Commonwealth archives on Centaurus, Dr. Zintara continued her work with a new assistant, a human historian named Greg Pierce. Together they were correcting centuries of altered records, restoring the true history of human-alien relations. "It's fascinating how the truth was hidden in plain sight," Greg said, as they examined an ancient star chart. Little clues scattered through the archives that no one connected until now. Dr. Shintara's antennae twitched thoughtfully. "History is often written by the victors. The hegemony thought they had won when they attacked Earth. They never imagined that humans would survive, rebuild, and eventually return." On the planet Nevius Prime, Sam Peters, the construction worker who had revealed himself as human months earlier, was now supervising a joint human-Nevian building project. The large structure would serve as Earth's first embassy on a non-human world. "The walls need to be thicker here," he explained to his Nevian colleagues, who no longer saw him as strange or frightening. "Humans prefer more sound insulation." One of the Nevians, a friend named Sik, clicked his mandibles in amusement. "So many special requirements. No wonder you kept your true nature hidden. You're high-maintenance creatures." Sam laughed. After centuries of careful silence, the ability to joke openly about human differences felt like a precious freedom. Across the galaxy, on 100 worlds, similar scenes were playing out. Humans and aliens learning to live together openly, overcoming centuries of misunderstanding and hidden truths. Not all reactions had been positive, of course. Some Commonwealth species still viewed humans with suspicion. Others worried about humanity's rapid advancement and growing influence. But the majority had accepted the truth and welcomed their new neighbors. Back on Convergence Station, Heather Moore finished watching the council ceremony and turned to her executive officer, Joe Kelly. "Phase 1 is complete," she said. "Humanity is recognized. Our rights are secured. Now comes the harder part." Joe nodded. "Building trust takes longer than establishing legal recognition. Some will always fear us because of the old legends. Then, we'll just have to show them that the legends were wrong," Heather replied. "Humans aren't monsters or gods. We're just another species trying to find our place in a very big galaxy." On Earth, as evening fell over New Denver, Paul Rogers stood on his favorite hillside, watching the lights of the city come on. Above, the first stars became visible in the darkening sky. Among them was a particularly bright point, the Convergence Station, symbol of the new relationship between humans and the Commonwealth. His communication device chimed with a message from Alice Young. The council vote was unanimous. We're in. Paul smiled. 300 years after the attack that had nearly ended humanity, his species had finally returned to its rightful place among the stars. Not as conquerors or victims, but as equals. The strange blip that had appeared on Commonwealth radar 6 months ago had changed everything. Humans were no longer hiding. They were home. In the vast chamber of the Commonwealth Council, Jack Turner concluded his acceptance speech with words that would be remembered for generations. For 3 centuries we waited in the shadows, watching and learning.
Now we step into the light, not seeking vengeance for past wrongs, but partnership for future rights. Humanity remembers its history, but we choose not to be defined by it. Together, we can build something greater than either humans or the Commonwealth
Could achieve alone. The applause that followed suggested that after a very long journey, humanity had finally found its place in the stars.